There was a scenario that I participated in and utilizing a mantra that I had some suspicions about, because I had still been practicing spirituality as far as reading books and understanding things all throughout my 20s, getting crystals, laying with them, having them on my chest. So I never deviated from trying to find out what was going to happen in the spiritual world, or how could I get to another level. I just didn't have really much success or any kind of formula to put something together. There was no ritual, if you may. Mm-hmm. And so through a process, I had discovered this word, and I was told that this word was very powerful through all the literature and the knowledge that I read. And it was so much to a point where when I finally found the word, which took me years, that I didn't pronounce it out of fear of what it would do, because that was the dogma that was built up around the word. And so I got to a point in my life where, and obviously there's a lot of little things going on here that just doesn't benefit us to talk about. It would be here on here for hours. But I got into a point in life where I was given this inclination in my mind by the higher self, if you may, that this word could possibly do something, that it could probably function like other words that I had used in the past that cause different phenomena. And because I never thought of it that way, at that point in my life when I decided that, hey, let me try to use this word and see what happens if I say it. Once I said that word, it started a chain reaction in my life personally that never let me go back to that vibration or frequency of the old lifestyle ever again. It didn't even seem compatible in any way, shape, or form. I immediately went to a level that was so much more beyond what we call physicality, that it was so easy when I got back here, which all happened in seconds even, for me to just let it all go. Like, I literally am one of those people that actually accumulated riches and was very wealthy, and within a 2-week period had given all of that wealth either away or I threw it away, because that was the only way I could get myself out of it. And that's something that's interesting to just note, that this had literally become like a millstone tied around my neck, and I didn't even know that it was there. And for me to get rid of it would have seemed preposterous. Get rid of the cars, get rid of the penthouse, for what? And when this situation happened, though, it was like, how fast can I get rid of this? Because it's not only holding me down, it's also somehow intrinsically tied to this roller coaster that I'll forever be on, which is what I saw in that whole moment of getting out of time, a forever roller coaster of just going up, going down, accumulating, what you would think is a lot of stuff, everything you would want, and then losing it all so you can then experience that, like when the giant falls, and then gaining it all back again. And then somewhere in between all these points, forgetting about the lessons that were learned the last time. So I kind of saw the entire lesson in that moment of what life was attempting to show me. And that if I wanted to open up the next vista of what I've been desiring all my life, then I needed to get out of all of this material responsibility. And so I was just like, show me where to put it. And because it was so vivid. And that's the thing about very vivid, strong experiences, is they have the ability to jar you completely out of whatever vortex that you were in that you thought was where you should be. And that's exactly what happened. So once that occurred, I was just liquidating stuff. Like, I knew I wanted to leave the US. I figured I had been there long enough that I had promised myself even years before then that I would try to see more of the world. And even though I had the financial ability, I found myself always like literally thinking, well, if I leave out of town and I stay gone for a month, I'm still going to have to pay both of those rents. I'm still going to have to pay both of those leases. Or, I would just literally calculate it like that, hey, I wouldn't be using that stuff, but I still have to pay for it. What could be better over there than where I'm at now? And that would be my whole reason of staying just put. And I never went anywhere. So when I connected all of those things, that's what I got my pack on my back. I was told this in a riddle. It said, yeah, James, which is my real name, you like to play games. You're trying to get light, L-I-T-E, but you need to get light, L-I-G-H-T, or excuse me, you're trying to get light, L-I-G-H-T, but you need to get light, L-I-T-E. You got too much weight, W-E-I-G-H-T, so you'll wait, W-A-I-T. And this was the whole process in the beginning of why I wrote the Code of the Matrix, because there was a riddle somehow within the language, a code, if you may. And once this code began unlocking and I began to see the words in a different way, they explain the entire story of what has happened to humanity. Because a language is not something that you could just change right away. It has to, just different parts of it are changed gradually, but you just can't move in on a populace of people and say, okay, we're going to change your language today and you're going to use this one tomorrow. So there were still remnants in the English language, as unbelievable as that may seem, but there were still remnants in the English language that led to a breadcrumb trail of the complete story of this epoch, if you may, of the position that we found ourselves in on this planetary system called Earth. And that was the adventure, is letting that code unravel, teaching other people about it, letting us all see just how clear it was, like words like backwards, meaning that the words are going backwards, you know, and so just looking at things a different way. And it just led to a massive acceleration of awareness.
Wow. Well, okay. So one quick question and then a longer question. First question is, can you tell us the word that kind of catalyzed all of this?
For sure. I can tell the definition of the word. I've never personally decided to just release this word to everyone because it was not expected what occurred, meaning that I was over my head. I'm really grateful that I was able to make it back. And I've heard of other people that have used the word and it did not go so well. And I think that has a lot to do with intentions. Because ultimately your intentions will prevail. There's a lot of the spiritual world is very potent when you get involved in certain things, but ultimately your intentions are going to prevail. But since a lot of people get involved with spirituality to make themselves more beautiful or to attract other people or to attract wealth, that set of consciousness is really destructive if you happen to get to the point of manifestation, because it's a point of greed, a point of scarcity. That's where all that stuff comes from. So you literally manifest or amplify a god of fear and scarcity to lord over you. And you never even realize that it's actually you. And how this reality works is that when you take a step, then the step appears. So you get into this weird relationship with what you think is not you, but is you exercising control in another way. So what this word actually does is it places a time cone in your chest. Which basically gives you an awareness of a complete unit or cycle. And the power of having that level of awareness, basically being able to see all your entire existence in one moment, and to gain that awareness, it's so potent, it can jar you. Like you literally can go crazy. Many people have been known to go crazy with this word. And there's even a symptom called the Jerusalem syndrome that happens with people that call upon this word that somehow can't handle the degrees of what is coming in with this word. And let's say, for instance, the degrees in this case would be the spirit, which is where knowledge comes from and awareness comes from, is more degrees of spirit. So the word seems to open up such a large portal of this kind of energy. It becomes a real struggle to keep hold of your previous identity and personality. Now, this is also known to occur in ayahuasca and DMT and things like that also. So it's not foreign in that respect. However, those are literal biological agents. Like we could go and find a DMT plant, and when you take it, you're aware of why that's changing you. And that's how the procedure goes. However, when you're saying something like a word, I had personally had no knowledge that words are that powerful. So, and that's kind of goes for the general consensus that words, we say them all the time. We know that, of course, you cuss somebody out or, they have a certain level of weight with them. But in this respect, certain words actually do something entirely different than the entire language. And this is just because these words are generally used or chanted on a consistent basis across the entire timeline by holy men and women. This doesn't mean they're good or evil, but holy men and women who keep that continuum going outside of time. So let's say, for instance, monks are chanting something 20 years ago every single day. That tone and vibration or that wavelength is always connected by those new monks that are still chanting that same word. And so in the event that you're able to get onto that frequency, which generally is like dialing a number, but you got to keep calling and calling and calling and calling until your resonance changes. And then once your resonance changes to whatever number it is that you're dialing, something picks up the phone. And because this is such an unexplored field, what may pick up the phone, what causes it to pick up the phone that day, all of that kind of stuff is not detailed. So this also means that, hey, somebody calls this in January versus March. Somebody does this after eating a cheeseburger versus being on a fast. All of that can cause different variations. And the last thing I want to be is responsible for something that happens to somebody's child that they're trying to bring back because they learned this word. Now, the word is known as the Ineffable word. It was never supposed to be pronounced. It was supposedly the name of God, and it was supposedly hidden from mankind, and that mankind went into some kind of slumber and could never remember it. This is the most that you get in the general books that may be presented about the word. And these are even books that you kind of dig a little bit to even find themselves. So that's a shorter answer about the word and why I don't just get on the line and say, yeah, this is the word, go try it, because there's a lot of responsibility in what goes on when a person uses it.
Yeah. Well, I almost didn't ask you, and I was thinking, if we were sitting at a cafe having coffee, I wouldn't ask you, but since we're doing an interview, I sort of have to ask you.
Well, I think if you didn't ask, then the fans would be like, what the hell is the word? Like, why didn't he ask him? What kind of host is this? Why didn't he ask him?